I've generated over $100 million online for coaches and consultants, and I've trained hundreds of sales reps to close high-ticket deals. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Josh, and today I'm going to be going through our exact formula that we use to scale coaching businesses with a sales team, just like what we did for our clients who have scaled to multiple 8 figures. And if you stay until the end, I'm going to show you how you can download our SOP for how we find, how we hire, and how we train sales reps for ourselves internally and for our clients as well. And I'm also going to show you how we structure our sales reps' days in order to optimize for the highest revenue generating activities first. Really so that you can go out and build your $1 million sales team the same exact way that we've done it for some of the biggest names in the online coaching and consulting industry. Now, before I dive into everything, I really want to preface this training by saying that you need to understand a few very basic principles first. And the main principle I want to talk about is what I call problem first marketing. And this should be the foundation of all of your marketing efforts in order for a sales team to even be effective in your business in the first place. Now, what do I mean by problem first marketing? Well, what I mean by that, and I want to jump into the iPad here, is that your entire business needs to be focused around the fact that your service and your product is the solution to a major problem that the market is facing, right? The market that you are in, so that you can speak exactly to what their problems are, what their challenges are, what their wants, their needs, their goals, all of that. You need to understand them so well that you know these things like the back of your hand. This is essentially what your core offer should be based on, okay? It's the core product that you have. And this is what your entire business should be optimized around in order to attract really as many ideal clients as possible. These are your clients, these beautiful little stick figures right here. And obviously the goal is actually to give them and help them get the specific transformation that takes them from the problem they're at right now to the goals that they want to get to, right? And they're going to see you as the only solution to those problems. Now, if you need more help on this, on creating and refining your offer, and it goes through how to optimize your entire business, your marketing, your sales efforts around your core offer. You can find that in the description down below. Okay, so here is the typical coaching business before they have a sales team in place. Now, let me give you a real life example of a client that we worked with very recently. Let me just paint the picture really quick of where they were at when we started working with them. For context, this company recently launched their coaching program in the investment fund space. Okay, so very sophisticated audience. Now, they had built a strong following on Instagram because they were seen as an authority in the space on how to start an investment fund to go out and actually raise capital and do deals. Now, when they first launched, they were selling this for $2,000. And it was a course with a weekly group coaching call and a community for all their members to be a part of. And they were selling this via a live webinar. Okay. Now, if we actually map this out, I want to show you what they were doing to actually get people to this webinar. So they were running ads plus organic content on Instagram. Okay. So they had these two, and they were pushing all of it to a registration page. Right, where people would register, they would show up on the webinar, they would go through their pitch, and either they buy or they didn't buy. Right now, they were the very first ones in their market to actually offer something like this to these people in this market, okay, to their ideal clients. And they were definitely solving a problem, right? If we go back to our problems first marketing principles, they were doing that. Okay, so they solved a problem in the market. And this information for them specifically, right, for their market, historically had been gatekept by people who were super high up in, private equity funds, hedge funds, you name it, right? This was not information that was really available to the general public at the level that they were providing it, okay? So they solved a great problem in this market. Now, after a few months of actually running this webinar, this live webinar, and serving their clients in this product that they were selling, here's what happened. Now, the people who bought this course, although they had the information and the education on how to go out and start an investment fund, it actually turns out that it wasn't really solving their core problem, right? There was still something holding them back. There was other huge challenges and huge problems that these people who bought this program were still facing, and it was preventing them from actually having success, right? So it led to higher refund rates. It led to lower client success, right? There's a small amount of people who actually ended up having success from this. And the other challenges challenges are stuff like starting an investment fund is very expensive, right? There's a lot of huge legal fees that are required to actually go out and do that. They actually need to have deals to invest into. If they're going to go raise money from private investors, they need to have very good deals that money is going to go into, and a plan, investment thesis, you name it, all that stuff, right? And although their original program, the $2,000 course, had some information about that, it wasn't enough to actually solve the problem and hold these people's hands to hold them accountable to actually go out and follow through with what they need to be doing. Okay. And like I said, because this program and this product wasn't actually solving what the real problem was in the market, it led to very low client success. Some people were asking for refunds, filing chargebacks, you name it. And overall, the webinar strategy started to die, revenue was dipping, they were losing money, ad costs were rising. All the things that you don't want to happen when you run a business started to happen. And my clients definitely knew that they were leaving money on the table because they knew that they had a very unique skill. They had a very unique type of knowledge and experience and track record that they could really help people, right? And they were helping people. They were doing a great job. But there needed to be a little bit of a tweak. There needed to be something a little bit repositioned so that they could actually solve what the core problem was in the market. And because they couldn't figure out exactly what that was and how to reposition their offer in order to solve that core problem, they knew that they were leaving money on the table. Now, an important note here is that they got a lot of webinar registrants over the course of the few months that they were running this strategy. And they thought that the solution to their problem was going to be to actually hire sales reps to start calling all of the people who registered for the webinar but didn't buy, right? And I understand the logic behind that. I totally get that. I understand why someone would actually think that. But they had the thought that, if we just hired sales reps, they would call all these people, they would all magically answer and become clients in the snap of a finger, right? I wish it was like that. Because if it was, this whole game would be a lot easier and everyone would be making a lot of money. Long story short, just plugging in sales reps to do what they wanted them to do was not going to work. I've seen this a lot. I've talked to a lot of founders who actually go through this route and try to do that, and then they realize it's not working. They think they just have bad sales reps, and it's really a snowball effect, and eventually leads to them shutting down the business, right? And what that kind of stems from is them not really understanding what the core problem is that they need to fix in the business. So what we had to do for them before a sales team could be put in place was completely reposition their core offer, right? Their core product in a way that actually solved the problems that the people were still facing who were in that $2,000 program that they had originally launched with. Okay. And so what I'm going to do here is a very high level overview of, what that actually looked like. And if you've seen my other trainings on the Ready Now funnel, that's essentially, what this is, right? And for context, what we had to do was structure this offer. Oh, let me get my pencil back out to make it irresistible. And again, if you've seen my other training on creating your offer and making it irresistible, really what goes into that is that you're promising a specific result, right? A transformation result in a specific amount of time. You have proof backing up that you have done this for others, right? So backing up your claims. And you have some sort of risk mitigator to make the decision much, much easier for your ideal clients to say yes to you and make it irresistible and a no-brainer for them to come and work with you, right? And so first, before we dive into like the, Ready Now funnel, the hierarchy, all of that stuff, I know this is about sales training, building a sales team, but we have to establish this first so that you can understand why you need these really solidified first for a sales team to even be effective in your business. Okay. So after refining the irresistible offer, right, and optimizing that, now what we had to do is figure out, okay, what is this specific product going to be? What is it going to do? How is it going to be different than the previous product, right? And a lot of it comes down to what this specific result is that you are promising, that you are guaranteeing, right? What is the transformation? And so what we had to do is come up with something along the lines, I can't remember the exact wording, but it was something along the lines of, we'll help you start your investment fund will do the legal work for you, right? So what I mean by that is they had to get all these legal documents in place that ranged anywhere from like $10,000 to $100,000, depending on the complexity of what their investment fund was and their requirements needed for that, right? So we figured out a way how to include that work inside of this core offer, right? And the way we did it was that we figured out we could have these guys partner with different law firms, and if we brought them X amount of clients on the legal side, they would significantly reduce their fees. And because we were bringing them a lot of business, right, the legal teams, they were so happy. They're more than happy to cut their prices down to make it a situation that makes sense for us to then go and package this into this specific product. Okay, so we'll do your legal, call it legal docs, and connect you with our network of investors to raise capital. Connect you with investors, blah, 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 right? It was something along those lines, not word for word. As you can see, the original product was, here's our educational material on how to start an investment fund, right? It worked. A lot of people wanted it. But what we had to do was reposition it to then solve the challenges that we came to find out that these people were still having even after going through that original core, the original core product at that time. Okay. And so if we were able to package this into a no-brainer offer where, okay, cool, now you understand the basics, you have the foundations. Now what we're going to do is actually work with you one-on-one to help you start your investment fund. We're going to include all of your legal doc creation inside of this program, completely done for you, so that you don't have to go out and spend an additional $10,000 to $100,000 on legal fees, depending on the law firm that you're going to work with and the complexity of your deal. And we are going to connect you with our entire network of investors who are actively looking for deals and they're wanting to invest into deals like yours, right? So we're going to get you prepared for that, work on your pitch, blah, 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 right? And we're going to deliver this all within the next 12 months, guaranteed, or else we'll give you a full refund. Okay. And so this actually gave these people, these ideal clients of theirs, a very specific result, a tangible result that they see as very achievable within a set amount of time. And there was a risk mitigator where they would get their money back if things didn't work out. Okay. Once we did that, this is what happened. Originally, I'll set the stage of their starting points when we started working with them was around 50 to 60K per month. Okay. After implementing this, it was literally like 30 to 45 days later. It was an instant lift of 200K the very next month. Okay. 30 to 45 days later. It was crazy. Now, I'm going to zoom out over here because I've got a screenshot. Here's what eventually happened. You can see right here is where they started working with us. It's only up from there, right? We implemented all of this stuff, all of the systems, refined their core offer, put a sales team in place, which we are going to get to in a sec here. And eventually their biggest month cash collected was $1.4 million in 1 month. After going from 50K to having webinars and struggling with all this stuff, but they absolutely blew up, right? And so it's not just by only having a sales team. It's not just by only having your offer completely solidified. You need both of them to be working in tandem together. And your business has to be optimized, and all your marketing and sales efforts have to be optimized around your core offer in order to see results like this and to start scaling your business like this. This month where they hit 1.4 million, the total contracted value of all their deals that they closed was a little over 2 million. It was like 2.1 million. And so you can see that when you do have these working together, you have your offer solidified, you have a high converting sales team in place, this is what can happen, right? You can grow very, very quickly. Okay. Now, with that being said, let's dive into exactly how a sales team fits into your high ticket coaching and consulting business. There's really 4 very, very important levels to a high functioning sales team. All right. And we're going to go through these one by one. Number 1 is appointment setters / SDRs, right? Whatever you want to call them. Now, it's obviously pretty self-explanatory. Their role is to set appointments with closers. Okay. It's not rocket science. And their role is to stay on top of all of their assigned leads that you have coming into your ecosystem from both organic efforts, right? Your organic content, and from all of your paid traffic. but these people haven't scheduled a call yet, right? Because again, we are optimizing your entire process, your entire marketing funnel, your entire sales funnel for your core offer and getting these people on a sales call. Okay. And so their role is to stay on top of all these leads who haven't booked a sales call yet and get them on the calendar with your closers. All right. Now, obviously, the second role here is your closers / account executives. Again, whatever you want to call them, your preference. We call them closers. Other businesses in like the SaaS space call them account executives. Doesn't matter. Their role is obviously to take sales calls and generate revenue for the business. Okay. And the third piece of this is making sure that you have an advanced CRM structure that's actually built to automate all of your sales and marketing team's back-end processes, not only to just manage your leads and keep track of leads, but it's really to increase your overall lead to close rate. Okay, this is a very, very important metric, right? And we want to measure this and we want it to increase over time and make sure it's as high as possible, because this entire system, when done right, is going to give all of your sales reps the best and highest chances to actually make money for the business. Things on the back end like certain pipeline automations, lead assignment to setters to closers, how it's getting filtered through, how you're tagging leads, what part of the pipeline they're going into, all of that information, lead nurturing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Now, the fourth piece after that is obviously training for your sales team. And there's a few very important pieces to actually training your sales team, right? Daily meetings go into this, call reviews go into this. They need to be doing self-training. There's very specific KPIs that we track per sales rep, especially for closers and setters. There are different KPIs that we are tracking. And also accountability. There needs to be the accountability processes in place so that whether it's you as the founder managing the team, or if you already have a sales team manager, how are they being held accountable and how are they holding their sales reps accountable, right? There's very specific processes and trainings and SOPs that we actually put in place and have built from scratch, just from years of trial and error of doing this internally, with how all of these work together as one to produce the highest revenue possible and making sure that you have a very high converting sales team. Okay. One thing I want to note here is that these last two right here, 3 and 4, we call sales enablement, right? The processes that you have established and put in place to enable your sales reps to bring in more money, to close more deals, to set more appointments, whatever it is. Okay. Now let's dive in to how your sales reps should actually be structuring their days in order to produce maximum results. And we're going to break this down for setters and closers individually. And the way we do this is that we break down their daily activities into 3 different categories. BOD is beginning of day, MOD is middle of day, EOD is end of day, in case you didn't know that. Now, with closers, they are probably the most important people that you will have in your business. And you want to make sure that when they are getting on sales calls with prospects, they are as prepped and they are as ready as possible. And obviously, you need them to be there to help that client, that prospect, make the best decision for themselves. Usually, if you've done a really good job in your marketing, that best decision for them is to come and work with you, right? And we've got other videos, other trainings on very specific types of language on sales calls, all of that stuff. We're not going to get into any of that on this training. But starting with closers, beginning of day, what do we want them doing, right? So before they take any sales calls, before they get on any meetings, we need them to do some mental priming and they need to prep for the day, right? Everyone's got their own thing. Usually with high functioning sales reps, most of them, including myself, would like to go work out first thing in the morning, wake up early. Maybe they're going on a run, whatever it is, right? Eating healthy, doing some sort of affirmations, whatever their biohacking routine is. Let them do what they need to do to get into the right mindset and get mentally primed before they do any work. Okay. Now, the second part that we like to have our closers do in the beginning of the day is review 1 to 2 sales calls before they do anything related to sales activities. And we do this because it allows them to see, okay, what did I do in my, calls from yesterday or 2 days ago, whatever it is, that I want to work on today, right? It allows them first thing in the morning to get into that state of being ready to actually make changes that, could have cost them a sale the day before or whatever it is, right? We always want our sales reps doing call reviews. It's the same thing as watching game tape. If you come from a sports background, I don't know if you do, but for me personally, I played high level Division I volleyball, professional volleyball as well. And we were constantly watching game tape. We'd even record all of our practices as well so that our coaches could show us, even in practice, not even games, but even in practice, what we were doing wrong so that we could fix it right then and right there. It's the same concept with actually reviewing your sales calls. Okay. Now, next is actually making sure that they are on top of all of their communication channels with all of their assigned leads, right? The people they've talked to in the past. They're checking their email. They need to be checking checking the SMS texting inside of the CRM, right? All of their assigned conversations, they need to be on top of those and checking those daily, multiple times per day, so that they can make sure no one's really slipping through the cracks and that everyone's getting taken care of. Because I know one of the worst things as a business owner is seeing that you have very warm leads who have already been on sales calls and they're messaging in, asking questions, no one's responding to them. So this has to be something that your reps are doing every single day and checking, constantly throughout the day in between calls, whatever it is. Ideally, in the beginning of the day, once throughout the middle of the day, and once throughout the end of the day, they are checking in on any conversation that might be coming in or that's active of people who are responding or, just messaging in with questions, because it happens very, very frequently. Okay. Now, the last thing I want to talk about for the beginning of day tasks for closers specifically, if they are having to schedule follow-ups with people that they've talked to, a day prior, 2 days prior, a week prior, whatever it is. A lot of times there's just logistical things that people need to figure out, which is why they can't close then and there, or they have to close a week later, whatever it is. The idea and the strategy behind scheduling follow-up meetings is trying to schedule them earlier in the day, right? I always would try to schedule follow-ups, and this is what I teach everyone as well. Schedule them in the morning, right? Because if you can get a close and close a deal, early in the morning before you're starting all your other calls, that is just priming you for a lot of energy going into your next calls. You're feeling good. You already got a close on the day. And it really just helps you, prime yourself mentally for going into all of your next calls with that same energy and clarity. And the fact that you're helping someone, get that one step closer to their goals because they just joined the program or the service that you are selling. Now, let's go to the middle of day, MOD. Obviously, it's pretty self-explanatory. This is where we want our sales reps actually taking sales meetings that are booked on their calendar. We recommend around 5 to 6 calls max per day per sales rep. Some people can handle more if they're really high performers. It really just depends on the person. If they can, that's great. We just want to manage what, the threshold is before burnout sets in each day. Right? Because what typically happens and what we've seen from our own experience is that if reps are taking more than 5 to 6 calls per day that are all each, 45 minutes to an hour long, what can happen is that it will start to affect their numbers, right? Their close rate starts to drop. They are, pretty tired by the end of the day, whatever it is. And, it compounds over time and it's just, it's not good for the company and it actually does a lot more harm than good. So that's middle of the day. Pretty simple. They're just doing their job, taking sales calls. Okay. Now, end of day. EOD, a few different things here. But essentially, what they need to be doing end of day is making sure that they have, sent out all the necessary post-meeting materials to anyone that they talk to, whether it's emails, other resources, whatever it is. Again, they need to be checking in on all conversations with their, hot list leads. That's what we call them, hot list. Make sure that there aren't any messages that are slipping through the cracks or any deals that are, potentially slipping through the cracks. Because again, that just costs the company money, also costs sales reps money because they're not closing the deal. Lastly, for end of day is end of day reports. Okay. Now, this is a very, very important piece of sales team success, especially in the high ticket coaching and consulting world. It's essentially a self-assessment of that day. And it's also a chance for them to update the sales manager or you, whoever it is that wants the visibility into what's happening on each sales rep's calls. It's really just literally an end of day report, as that's what it's called, about how their day went, how their calls were. We have a whole process where they do a self-assessment, like I said, and they're really just giving updates. And this is super important because we need fast feedback loops from them so that we can really know what's happening on these calls with the prospects who are booking these calls with us, right? We want to know if they're good fits, the bad fits, lead quality is good, lead quality is bad, whatever it is. That's why we do this. And it's also to make sure that we are holding our sales reps accountable. They're holding themselves accountable every single day to submit that report. And it really just helps the entire company and helps sales reps as a whole really perform better as well. Gives the managers, or you as the founder, if you are their manager, gives them the ability to give some instant feedback, encourage them, coach them, and know what to talk about on the sales meeting the next morning. Okay. All right. So that's it for closers. Now let's go to appointment setters and how we want them to structure their days. Okay. Now, same concept, beginning of day, middle of day, end of day, right? Let's start with beginning of day. Same type of process for the closers, right? Going through mental priming, they're prepping for the day, doing some mindset training. We also want them to review some of their own calls as well. And what we even have setters do is review some closing calls of people that they've set with closers, right? And so we kind of established that understanding with them where we want them to go, talk to the closer. Hey, how did this guy do? Give me the feedback on him. I thought he was a really good fit. Like, did he close? What happened to him? I would love to review the call, see if there's anything I missed and how I can get better at my job as an appointment setter to maybe qualify things further or weed out some things, some people before handing them off to you as a closer. And again, what we need them doing is constantly checking email, SMS, and all conversations and leads that are assigned to them inside of the CRM because they are really the front lines of defense. We need them managing and facilitating conversations at a very, very efficient level. Okay. So that's their beginning of the day. Now, once they have done that, now their, main job and priority start with the middle of day tasks, right? They're dialing, they're messaging, they're setting appointments all day long. They're going through logistics. Sometimes there's logistical things that happen where they might need to help reschedule someone, or if someone no-showed and closers are really busy, they can call them at that time, be like, hey, why aren't you on the appointment? Blah, 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 blah. Depending on the stage of business that you are in, we also have a strategy where we deploy a application grading process where setters essentially can take the lower qualified leads based on their application. And if it's not 100% the best fit for your closers and it's not the best use of time for your closers to jump on with that prospect, usually we'll have setters take those calls. They can pitch the lower ticket products if it makes sense for that prospect. If not, they can pitch the core offer, right? And they can get commission on those. And it's really good training for them to start practicing being a closer if that's what they want. If they want to move up eventually, usually most appointment setters do. And now end of day for them, they are really making sure that all of their highest priority leads have been taken care of. And they are submitting their end of day reports, right? It's the same process, same strategy, self-assessment, update of their day, update of their numbers. It's really important for managers and founders to see, how the specific efforts of the setters, kind of were throughout the day in the sense of connection rates, set rates, how many appointments they're setting, how many dials they're doing, all of that stuff, right? And obviously we have other reports, we have other dashboards that track this stuff automatically, but we are doing this in a Slack channel with these end of day reports or however your main communication channel is set up. We recommend Slack just because you can automate a lot out of there. But that is, essentially how we are setting up all of our sales reps days for both closers and setters and how we can ensure that they're, really chunking their days in the most effective way possible. Now, with all this in mind, what I want to finish up with is really just going over the math of your entire sales and marketing system together with having a high-performing sales team. All right. Now, for this example, let's just assume that your offer, your content, your ads, everything is completely dialed in, producing leads and producing book sales call on your sales team's calendar. Okay. Now, here is a general rule of thumb for you to go by when determining how many sales reps you need based on the amount of leads that you are getting. Okay. So for setters, the industry average and what we've seen makes the most sense is that they can typically handle about 20 to 30 new leads per day. And that equates to about 400 to 600 per month. Okay. And the reason that we have come across this number, and this is, divided or multiplied by 20 working days, right? So 20 leads times 20 working days is 400, 30 leads times 20 working days per month is 600. We have really determined that for, every 400 to 600 leads, depending on the effectiveness of that setter, really one setter can manage all of that. Okay, so keep that in mind. Every 400 to 600 leads per month, usually need about one setter. All right. Again, this is really just a starting point. Now, again, I'm not saying you have to abide by this rule, but this is a very good rule of thumb to go by when you are starting out with hiring appointment setters. All right. Now, you might find that for your market, for your product, for your industry, whatever it is, these might fluctuate a little bit, either lower or higher, just depending on the amount of touch points and work that setters have to do per lead. So just keep that in mind when you are going through this and when you are building out your sales team. And the last thing I'll say about this, with the 400 to 600 leads per month, it's really just what we found is the appropriate balance for your setters to go out and focus on the highest priority leads that come in every single day, right? So let's say every day you're getting 20 to 30 new leads. We obviously want our appointment setters prioritizing people who are coming in immediately, obviously based on what the SOP is for what these leads are opting into, what they're getting, what the appropriate time is to reach out after they opt in, all of that stuff. But we just want to make sure that the first 2 to 3 days of them opting in, we are doing everything we can on the appointment setter front to get in contact with these people via calling them, via messaging them, and having these automated email and SMS sequences that are going out to try to get in contact with them, to get a response out of these leads, okay? And so again, we want them to focus on the hottest, newest leads first, devote the right amount of time to working the hottest and newest leads every single day. Those become priority 1. Priority 2 is people who haven't responded X amount of days ago. Priority 3 is obviously people who haven't responded from 2 to 3 days ago, whatever it is, however you want to set up that order of priorities. Okay, write this here. P1, new leads. P2, 1 to 2 day old leads. And P3, 2 to 3 days old, right? And you can figure out what type of nurturing sequences you want to happen, what automations you want to happen after people go through P3, still haven't responded. What are we going to do with those leads, right? That's something that requires a whole different training video. I'm not going to get into all of that right now on this call. Now, for your closers, like I said earlier, usually about 5 to 6 slots, right? Calls, meaning meetings on their calendar per day, is the max that we recommend, and we want to make sure that they are actually filled up with these 5 to 6 calls per day. Again, these are 45-minute to hour-long calls if you're following our system. And like I said earlier, what we found is that on average, your average closer is going to start to lose steam, and it could affect numbers after they start going beyond, or if they start going beyond this many calls. So we want to really limit it to about 5 to 6 calls per day. If you have a high no-show rate, then you got to start looking at like double booking strategies and doing all those things. It's a nightmare, right? So we have other strategies that combat making sure that you don't have a high no-show rate. All right. And before all the haters really start coming at me saying that, that's way too little, let me expand on this. Now, back in the day when I was closing full-time, I rarely opened my calendar above 5 to 6 time slots per day. And the reason is because I really valued my time off calls equally when I was still able to do other revenue generating activities. Okay. Meaning following up with my pipeline, nurturing my leads, doing my own training, right? Listening to my own call recordings. Or if it was from trainings where I had actually bought other sales training programs or reading books or whatever it was. I saw that time very, very important to make sure that the calls that I'm getting on that do show up are being properly taken care of, and I'm showing up as the best version of myself. And that's what always led to me having the highest close rates on the team and always being a leader on the team month in and month out, right? Being number 1 or number 2 on the leaderboard every single month. And a huge mistake, something that's really important I want to address that I see so many founders in this coaching and consulting space make is really thinking that their sales reps should be spending 8 hours a day on closing calls. And I think that is the worst thing that you can do to any sales rep because it leads to burnout so fast, right? Your reps will very quickly become depleted of their energy, numbers are going to dip, and it always ends up biting you in the butt as a business owner and doing a lot more harm than good for the company. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to break down the math. I want to take this a few steps further. And now what we're going to be doing is basing this off of industry averages. Okay. So let's just say the average cost per booked call is $250, right? And now, just to preface this is cold traffic coming from ads alone. This isn't factoring in your organic content, leads coming from there, the entire ecosystem working as a whole. This is going to be pure cold traffic math, right, for a sales team. Okay, so cost per book call is $250 from your ads. Now, what I mean by that is that for every $250 that you spend on paid ads, you get 1 booked call, right? And a very important thing to note here is that obviously for this to work, you have to have the right funnel, the right system, the right messaging, the right offer, all of that stuff set up in order to actually reach this industry average of $250 cost per booked call. Okay. So for example, if you wanted 10 booked calls, that equals how much? $2,500. Okay. Now, the average show up rate, meaning the people who show up to that call, is right around 70%. Okay. And this is factoring in no-shows and cancellations / reschedules. Okay. So for every 10 booked calls, that means 7 show. All right, we're making progress. Now, the next line, we're looking at your close rate out of those 7 calls that show up. Okay, so let's just take the industry average close rate of 20%, right? So calls taken to close equals 20%, which means for every 7 calls equals 1.4 closed. All right. Now, this is where you need to figure out the economics of how to price your services, how to price your coaching. Because if you're spending $2,500 to get 10 calls generated, which is going to equate to 1.4 calls closed, obviously you don't want to sell a product that's only $2,500 because you're actually going to lose money once you're paying your sales reps their commissions as well. Okay, so you need to figure out the economics of what price point is going to make sense for you to actually have a profitable coaching business just from your cold ads alone. Okay, and so this is something that we're always really looking at when it comes to scaling with the sales team is what is obviously your price point and how much is it costing to actually acquire one customer. The customer acquisition cost and ticket price. Now, for your core offer, and I'm not going to get too deep into this because this is about a sales team, not your core offer. Now, for your core offer, right, your core product, we typically recommend that your starting price is no less than $5,000, right? So let's say you've got a 90-day program. $5,000 costs $2,500 to acquire that client. Then you got to factor in sales rep commission. Obviously, the profit left over is not that great. So we want to start looking at, okay, well, what price is going to make sense if we have a sales team, if our customer acquisition cost is actually $2,500, and then we can really just optimize things from there, right? So with that being said, the game then becomes driving client acquisition costs down throughout every single step, right? And we do this with organic content, nurturing processes, shortening sales cycles, and doing whatever else it takes to increase the conversion rate of your minimum qualified lead to close rate. Okay, we call that MQL to close rate. And all of this is done through having a very, very holistic client acquisition system where your marketing and your sales are really in perfect alignment with each other. And they're bringing you the lowest cost per customer as possible. And all of this is done through having a proven holistic client acquisition system where your marketing and sales are in perfect alignment to bring you the lowest acquisition cost possible. Now, if you want to install a proven client acquisition system into your business just like this, where you have all your marketing and all your sales systems in complete alignment, you're able to generate qualified leads every single day, turn those leads into qualified appointments on yours or your sales team's calendar. And you have a team full of high quality sales reps who are managing all your leads, taking sales calls every day, and closing deals to print money for the business completely on autopilot. Really so that you can focus on doing what you do best, which is running the business, improving the business, and actually serving your clients. If you want that, I want you to go below and watch our short video on exactly how we will install this system directly into your business, 100% done for you. And if it makes sense to you after you watch that video, we can jump on a quick call to map out what this system would look like specifically for you and your business and exactly how we will implement it immediately to start scaling your business. That's it, and I'll see you on the next one.